All righty. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Okayest Trapper podcast. As always, we are brought to you by Mountain Tough Fitness. Now, when this episode airs, we will be one day out from Tough Fest, which is being hosted in Bozeman, Montana. If you happen to be there, you'll get to work out with me. That'll be a lot of fun. Get our collective butts kicked in the gym, which is a lot of fun. So if you're out there, come by. If not, and you do want to get in shape for the backcountry or whatever you're doing in your off time, go to mountaintoughfitness.com, use the promo code Okayest30. That's all caps, Okayest30. Check out all the programming there and do a lot of fun things, deadlifts, burpees, all the things that people really hate, but it's probably pretty good for you. But today I'm excited. I get to have, somebody that I got to meet pretty recently. Actually I met him 2 years in a row at the Hunt Expo. Met through his wife, who's been a previous guest on the show. Somebody that is a lot of fun, Laura Groesbeck, aka the Dickless Hunter. And now I get the honor to talk with her husband, Jase, somebody that I've been following on social media for quite a while, somebody who has definitely influenced me in my adult onset hunting career, especially when it comes to bears, deer, elk, but he's also a trapper. And I'm pretty excited to talk with him about that. So, Jase Groesbeck, welcome to the show.
How's it going, man?
And another day, we were just talking before we went on. I'm coming off a 4 or 5 day bender of bear hunting, which was pretty successful, but it's tiring, man. It's tiring.
It is. The last time Laura and I did a backcountry bear hunt like that, it's been a few years, but it was exhausting, man. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but it's funny. I was doing bait, right? So I live up in Atlanta, Idaho, pretty remote, but I run a few different bait locations. And I saw somebody, it might have even been you guys, where somebody was kind of trash talking baiting and saying how baiting's easy. And my God, if you spend some legitimate time cultivating good bait sites to get bears in, it's every bit as hard as a spot and stalk deep backcountry bear expedition.
Absolutely. Not only is it hard, just the amount of time that you spend out there refreshing the baits, the amount of money you spend, you're burning the candle at both ends,
And what about you guys? How many bait sites are y'all running, and when do you start? And when are you actually executing? Because I know you've punched a few tags already this season too. So what does that baiting approach look like for you guys up north?
Well, I've had about 7 years of baiting experience, and I've learned a lot over the 7 years. And I started out having all three of my baits out. Thought more was better, and that's not always the case. Starting out, we hunt a 1 bear unit. It's lower in elevation. Bears are out earlier. We try to capitalize on that, and not every year do we kill bears off bait. We like to do spot and stalk too. We actually last year I spotted a bear right from my deck, and I went up and killed it the next night, 2 miles away. So, but yeah, no, right now, after all the years of doing this, we kind of learned to have, and it goes the same with trapping too, have one really good freaking set and just focus all your time and energy on that, because you can kill all of your bears on that one bait.
Mm-hmm. And what has that kind of turned out for you guys? What's if you're willing to share kind of the secret sauce? Because I'm a few years behind you. I've been baiting for 3 years now, and I've gone through the phases of using rotted beaver meat, which was hit or miss, to the sweet stuff, to doing honey burns, to using oats and things like that. And I'm still kind of feeling out what works, because it seems to be pretty random for me on the results aspect.
Well, bears are garbage disposals. They really are. They'll eat just about anything. But the first couple of years I did breads, donuts, anything I could find at a discounted price at a bakery. I bought that, and that bait worked really well. But the only problem is it molds really easy. So lately we've been, the past couple of years, we've been trying to find something that doesn't mold easy. Grains work pretty well. Dog food seems to mold pretty easy. So there's really everybody has their own recipe, I have swore by keeping it sweet as possible. Greases, adding sugar to it, Boarmasters products, just keeping it sweet and addicting to them. Because when you're in an area where there's other people baiting, you don't know what they have for baits. So you want them to like your baits the best. So, yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing the past couple of years anyway.
That's a good point. For me, I started with rotted meat, which would pull in bears. But this year I was really focused on like some heavy starchy carbs like dog food and oats, but it was always capped off with a lot of sweet stuff, whether that was like a Kool-Aid powder mix or, like a honey burn around the barrel. And that did seem to bring in more bears more consistently than some of this rotted meat I've used in the past. So that's a pretty good point on, yeah. I guess sugar is addictive to everybody, and bears are probably not new to that.
For sure. And honestly, I think a lot of it is location on the baits. You could have the best bait in the world, and if you put it in the wrong location, it's not going to be successful. That's probably the biggest pointer I can give to people is taking the time, looking at your Onyx maps or base maps, whatever you use, finding a drainage where it's going to hold bears, and putting your bait in a spot where the wind is going to constantly blow down into the drainage, where bears are constantly moving around and they're going to smell your bait. If you put it up on a flat somewhere, well, that's probably not going to be the best location. So, and I try to find somewhere where it's dark timber, a little bit thick, where they feel comfortable coming in during daylight hours. If you put it out in the wide open, my experience, put it out in wide open, they aren't going to come in during daylight hours. They just feel too exposed. So I do think location is probably more than half of what's going to be successful.
That's good. That makes me rethink a few of my bait sites. I have one that's been tried and true, and it kind of falls in the same path you just said. It's kind of at the top of a drainage. That wind's going down. I know it holds bears, but it's not that timbered where I have the barrel. So it really takes getting into the later season when the daylight's getting a little longer before I start getting bears that will, skirt the time and maybe come in right at last light or maybe come in right at first light. But there's not a lot of that variance where they're coming in midday. Right. So that gives me a lot to rethink.
Yeah. And another thing to think about too, a lot of people don't think about is, they go spend a couple $100 worth of bait, go put their barrel out, they hike in somewhere and they put it in the wide open where birds can see it. If ravens find your bait before the bears do, you might as well pack everything up and move it to a different location, because the birds will not stop. So I try to find somewhere super hidden, secluded, where the birds aren't just going to spot it. So
I've seen ravens take it. I have a picture of a martin just going crazy in my barrel, chipmunks, a little bit of everything that just really goes to town on all that bait.
Oh yeah. But yeah, chipmunks are terrible on the pack rats. We have pack rats around here, and they just mow that food right down.
Yeah, that's the worst when you're trying to target something else. But yeah, and your son just got his first bear this season, yeah?
Yeah, 10 years old. Pretty awesome. We actually went camping that weekend, and I stayed back at the camper with the kids and had a fire and cooked s'mores and whatever, and let Laura go sit the bait with Weston, and yeah, it all came together pretty awesome. First bear at 10 years old. So that's more than I've ever accomplished at that age, I can tell you that.
Me too. How exciting was that? Because I'm a father of young kids too. My oldest, who's younger than most of your kids, is coming on the trap line with me more. But it's pretty cool when I see friends of mine who have kids, whether it's your kids, Adam's kids, when they really get into hunting and then they have success. Like that's got to be the coolest feeling ever.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I would give up all my tags if I could, just to give them to him. I get more, or any of the kids, for that matter. So I get more enjoyment out of seeing kids take animals than myself. So it was pretty special. They came back and got me at the camper, and we all went down to the family and went and retrieved the bear. And it was a pretty special moment. So pretty awesome.
Man. Well, speaking of like kids, right? When we're all talking about trapping, the question I like to ask everybody, what's your earliest memory of ever being exposed to trapping? Did you grow up in a trapping family, a hunting family? When were you first exposed?
I didn't really start trapping until mid-teens, and I didn't know what I was doing. My father wasn't a trapper, hardcore hunter, fisherman, but he didn't trap at all, and I kind of just dicked around by the house, just little stuff here and there, but I really didn't get around to trapping until I moved to Idaho, and just really took it as an opportunity to extend my opportunities year round, like throughout the year, and I just kind of fell in love with it here. So,
And
yeah.
where were you at before you moved to Idaho? I just kind of assumed you were an Idaho native.
No, I'm not. I'm a transplant like most people around here, but um, I'm from upstate New York, actually, up in the Adirondack Mountains. Lived in Vermont for 7 or 8 years. Worked for a power company back there, and decided to move out west one day. Just kind of chase the dreams of elk hunting, mule deer hunting. Everything that we dreamed of back there, that we didn't have. So it's been a dream come true, and met my wife 2 years later, and it's just been pretty special. So
Yeah, I think you and I are similar in that vein where you chase the lure of the West and you end up here and it is great. You get so many opportunities from a game species, from a fur bearer opportunity with trapping. And apparently Idaho holds great women too, because I met my wife pretty soon after I moved here. You met yours. So there's something in the water for sure.
Don't let her fool you. She's from Washington, so.
Okay. Oh, that's the secret.
Yeah.
Well, ironically, my wife's technically from Washington too. That's where she was at before they moved to Idaho. So,
Yeah.
But with the trapping though, so you were in Vermont or in upstate New York, then Vermont, came to Idaho. When you started getting into trapping, what were the main target species that you went after? Was it river critters? Was it land critters, or was it all of the above?
Yeah, like Laura talked about during your podcast with her, we're kind of limited on where we can trap here for certain critters. The river's right here, so we try to target otters, beavers, mink, just the water stuff, some raccoons to control, the population of those for birds. But it's mainly been just the water for me. I did trap wolves one winter, went through the whole wolf trapping course. It's kind of a lot to get certified to do that, but boy, I'm going to tell you, working a full-time job and trying to catch a wolf during the seasons it's almost impossible, dude. Like I'd show up at home from work at 6, 7 o'clock at night during the winter, pitch black, load up the snowmobile, drive an hour up to where I could unload the snowmobile, drive another 45 minutes on the snowmobile by myself up into the backcountry. Dangerous as hell. If I broke down, I'd probably die.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it for about a month and a half, and I was running some snares, ran a couple footholds, but the snow was so deep, I didn't want to dick with the footholds. And right around that month and a half mark, the wolves came back through that area, and I had caught one, but it was underneath. It must have got him underneath the shoulder and part of the neck, and he just kept doing circles and circles, and he finally broke that snare, and I lost him, and I pulled all my shit, and I was like, you know what, I am done. This is not for me. So this is too much.
Yeah, the wolf trapping, man, I'm with you. So I have been attempting wolf trapping for the past several seasons while holding a full-time job, quickly realizing that you really need to be focused on it full-time. And that was kind of my excuse of why I wasn't being as successful as I wanted to be. But ironically, I lost my job this past year, so I was unemployed during the wolf season. So I was like, oh, it's on now. This is the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't say that even if you weren't with a full-time job, that wolf trapping would necessarily be easier, because I had a lot more time to focus on it, and I still was getting outwitted at every corner by wolves. So it's
Oh
probably
man.
attributing my poor trapping skills, but also just, it's tough.
Yeah. No, it is tough, and that's why a lot of people don't do it, you know. And there's a few hardcore guys around here that do trap the hell out of wolves, and I'm thankful for those guys putting in the work. You know, they're retired folk, most of them, and that's what it takes to be a successful trapper for sure. You know, they camp out spike camps up there in the wintertime. They rough it, man, but they
Yeah.
get it done. So
And are you guys having the same process? So when I was out bear hunting this past weekend, like we have 5 named packs that kind of run right around our area. There's more out there. I've gotten eyes on them. The amount of wolf shit everywhere was 5-1 for all the bear crap we found. And, surprisingly, there were still a lot of deer. The fawns were starting to drop this past weekend. I saw one of those, but, is it as bad up where you guys are at as far as just wolf sign, wolf kills? I had 2 on my camera, my baiting sites within a week. Like, how is it up where you're at?
well, I think, you know, around here it's so damn thick that um Laura and I have only seen 1 or 2 wolves, you know, and we spend a shit ton of time in the woods.
Yep.
It's just so damn thick. And you know, you walk logging trails and stuff, you'll see wolf shit, you know, you'll see it constantly.
Mhm.
But to actually see a wolf, or to even get one on camera, they're so damn smart around here. It's pretty wild. But um yeah, I know they're a big problem, but honestly, I think the bears are just as bad on the calves and the fawns. To be honest with you, I think there's more bears around here than people think, and they really take a toll on the young.
Yeah, and that area is, I'm going to use air quotes, like Grizz country, right? Do you guys have Grizz in that area, or are you on the outskirts of that line?
Um, we're kind of in the central area of where, you know, there's bears above, there's grizzlies above us, and there's some southeast of us. So we're kind of in that middle, but there's a few that pass through here and there in a bit of roots.
Yeah.
But I've never seen any sign of them on our baits or any tracks. But you know, they're coming around though. Seems like every year there's more and more that are wandering through. So
Yeah, that is one critter. Like, wolves don't seem to bother me too much out when I'm, backpacking, hiking, whatever. But I went elk hunting for the first time. This was 2 years ago in West Yellowstone, that kind of Henry's Lake area, and I saw there were grizz tracks everywhere. I saw one on my spotting scope as I was calling elk in, and honestly, like, it kind of ruined the hunt for me. Like, and it
oh,
might
for
have been
sure.
all in my head, but it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't like that either, man. Especially archery hunting. I mean, yeah, that shit make your sticker peck out for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I was calling in a bull, or what I thought was a bull, and it was kind of dense aspeny stuff, and you hear all this rustling kind of coming through, and I'm not like the best caller. I probably sound more like a predator call than a cow elk or something. And every time I was just afraid that what was going to bust through there was going to be big and brown and meaner than the big and brown with horns that I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I wouldn't like that either. I got some friends that live over Montana there, and they're constantly seeing sign of them in the woods and stuff. And yeah, I'm not afraid to walk in the woods around here at dark, but you get into that kind of country, and yeah, it's kind of unsettling for sure. You know.
Yeah, and I've never been around a big grizz. So like this past weekend, we got on and killed the biggest Idaho black bear that I've seen personally, at least in our area. And the skull measured 18 3/4 of an inch, big old paws, probably close to 300 pounds, had a 2-inch fat cap. for a spring bear, which was kind of insane.
Yeah.
But even
that's
that, yeah, that's big. But even that's dwarfed by a grizzly, you know. And if I had seen this kind of color phased bear alone in the woods at night, it would have scared the crap out of me. But you know, the size difference between that and grizz, and you know, the anger management they need, that
Oh,
not
for
for me,
sure.
man.
Yeah. So tell me about that bear hunt a little bit. Well, you said you guys baited that.
Yeah, we baited it. So I had two buddies come up from Texas, and they had their OTC tags, and we sat. We it was a whole thing. They have a show on Carbon TV, so they're trying to film. Cameras were busted. Everything wasn't working. So me and one of the guys went up to sit the bait the first night, and then the other guy ran back to town. You know, a 6-hour drive to go get a new camera base, essentially. Real unfortunate, but you know, we made the best of it. So we went and sat the bait. Last light, you know, I get an elbow. I was kind of already just in la la land. And my buddy goes, "There's a bear." And I look over, and not at our bait, but kind of coming up from the bottom of the drainage, like he was going to the bait. Huge, beautiful bear. You know, in the last light, I thought it was pitch black. It turned out to be color phase, like a nice brown, not quite cinnamon, but it was big. And no time to turn any cameras on, do any of that, because he kind of came in, sniffed around, and was starting to walk back down the trail out that drain or down the drainage. And so I turned to my friend. I said, "Hey, man, if you got a shot, take the shot." And I was literally pulling like my cell phone out of my pocket to try to at least get the bear on camera because it was huge. And he let rip on his 7 PRC. And, you know, what looked like was right behind the shoulder as he was kind of walking away, kind of quartered back towards us. And everything in the world indicated that it was a great hit. But the interesting thing, that bear made no noise. It kind of bucked up, kicked its legs, and just ran straight down that trail, right down the drainage. You know, so we kind of did the high five. Like, he had every bit of confidence in himself that he had hit that bear. It was like a 100, maybe 110-yard shot. And, you know, ballistically, that 7 PRC should have had a pass through, should have done the work. So we wait a little while. It's getting dark. Turn on our headlamps. We go down where we're going to expect to see just tons of blood, fur, something. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Oh man.
And we're a little confused. And it's in this area. I've had a lot of wolves. So I actually had some wolf steel on the ground because we weren't affected by like the federal grizz lawsuit. So I could still trap. Not on that direct trail where bears were coming up and down, but kind of some offshoots where the wolves frequent. And we start to kind of go down the trail, no blood, no blood. And we get maybe 200 yards down the trail, and up where I had one of the wolf traps, the wolf trap was sprung. I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Nothing in it, no fur. And I'd had him out for like a week or two. So I'm like, maybe something tripped it beforehand, just not thinking. We looked all around there, no blood. So we're like, we'll come back in the morning, see if we can find the bear. Of course, wake up the next day, eagerly go out there, go back to the site, no blood. We walk clear down the drainage, and that drainage ends in a creek. So you'd think that bear would run down in a creek. There's a known den down there. So I went, you know, we stuck our head in the den, and there's no bear in there. And scratched our heads, and then self-doubt came in, and we're like, crap, we missed this bear. Somehow we missed this bear. So we went and got some lunch, but for whatever reason, none of us were like settled with, you know, letting that bear go. Like, I think all of us knew that there was a dead bear somewhere. Long story short, we walked the drainage from the bottom up, and we come back and we get back to where that wolf trap was sprung, and there's still no blood, no sign of a bear anywhere. And we're like, crap. And I don't know how it is up where you're at, but where we're at, it's timbered, but there's a lot of young growth because it was there was a fire there like 13 years ago, but it's almost all buckbrush, just head high buckbrush. So there could be a bear 4 feet from you and you never know it. You know, you just have to trip over it. So we finally go back. We're about to give up. We're like, nope, this bear was not shot. And we say when we get to that trap, like, there's no way that bear, if he was hit, would run uphill. It's just not logical. But because that wolf trap was sprung, we're like, maybe he did. So we decided to walk 5 feet up from that wolf trap to the first log that bear would have to go over, and there was blood. And we're like, all right, we did hit this bear. But then that just ensued the longest track job I've ever had on a bear. It was 8 hours. So what happened is we got a pass through. It hit behind the shoulder, gut shot the bear, because it kind of came out the backside. So it was just really poor blood. So we'd find these pools where he'd lay down, and then he'd get up and run. But in between those pools, like maybe 15, 30 yards through dense stuff, we would be looking for like the tiniest speck of blood on this buckbrush. And just took us forever. But long story short, we found the bear. It was an awesome bear.
Yeah, that's
and everybody was pretty happy.
Well, that's good that you didn't give up, because I tell you, bears do not bleed worth a shit most of the time, and that's why I try to shoot something at least 200 grains or higher, and I just put them down. I don't like tracking shit, and so I use a 300 PRC with a 225 grain bullet, and it hammers them pretty hard. But
yeah, I've got my 300 PRC, and I think that's what I'm going to use. And I've actually was talking to somebody too locally who was like, yeah, I've shot 2 bears that didn't bleed at all. And it's insane to me, but people are talking about just shoot the shoulders, right? Just drop them where they stand. Like, so you don't have to do that, because what does seem to be true is that if you hit a bear and it can run, it's going to go to the deepest, darkest, dankest spot to hole up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that first bear I killed this year, that big one, I had him in my scope for almost 10 minutes. I was waiting for the right shot placement, only because where we're baiting is super freaking steep, and if you don't drop them right there, they're gonna roll, and they're gonna run down into a shithole, and it's gonna be a miserable pack out. So I waited and waited, and I waited for a front on shot, and it dumped him right there. But and Laura's very strategic with her shots as well in that shot, in that bait too. So it's yeah, you learn a lot. I get jumpy. We all get jumpy and excited and make a quick shot, and then you instantly regret it. And it's like, shit, man, I had all the time in the world to make a damn good shot. And we've all been there, man.
Yeah, so that's my biggest takeaway, is that patience aspect. And ironically, I thought I would learn, because I actually missed a bear on that same bait with my bow last year. I was not seen. I was in a blind 25 yards back. It was a chip shot, an absolute chip shot. Like, I've shot so much further than that, and I just got jumpy when that bear came in, because I think my mind was going like, we're not getting a lot of bears in light. Here's one in light. It's on the barrel. And the second I kind of let that bow go, he looked back at me, and I zipped it right under his feet between the barrel and him, and lost it. But all because I wasn't patient enough. So that's kind of my hopefully new routine, is really taking the time and recognizing that I'd rather get a good shot than track a bear forever anymore.
For sure. And your brain just takes over sometimes. You can talk it through all you want, and shit still happens. It's part of being a hunter, unfortunately. But yeah, no, that's awesome. You found that bear, and it was a freaking damn nice bear. So
yeah, it was awesome. I'm happy for my buddy. And we weren't able to punch any more tags over the weekend, but we saw a few. We saw a sow and cubs and a few others around, but nothing to make a move on. But for me, like, it is nice, because when you're out, you get to scout, or at least for me, like, every time I'm out hunting for something, I'm always looking for something else, it feels like, or I come on something else. So like finding more beaver dams while we were out on another creek up another drainage. It's like, oh man, there's another spot to trap. But I do want to circle back to like the trapping. So what was the first critter you trapped when you got to Idaho?
It was a beaver. I put the hurting on the beavers pretty hard that year. I actually caught that first year trapping here, I caught an 82 pounder, and I about had to use my truck to pull him out. He was a big son of a gun. But actually, the otters, I had the hardest time catching an otter the first year. They avoided me like a plague, man. But
were you targeting them? Because for me,
I
I've
was.
caught otters, but it's been in beaver sets, just pure luck.
Oh yeah, like I targeted them hard. Like I had, I don't know, probably a dozen traps out in like really good spots, and they would just go around it or whatever. You'd see sign of them around your trap. They would never go through it. And I had my traps out for almost 3 months before I finally caught my first freaking otter, and it was pretty special. And then the next day, I caught my second otter. It's like bang bang, and I was done. But now I'll set a beaver trap and I'll get an otter in it. Like it's not even a huge deal anymore, you know. But yeah, it's funny how things work out like that. But I had a lot of freaking fun with it. And I still do it here and there, but I don't have quite the amount of time that I used to have with my new job, and that's where my wife kind of took over all my good spots, and she's found some really good spots on her own as well. But she's kind of taken it over, and I'm happier to see her do all of it than myself, you know. So I did catch
Yeah.
one beaver last year. I was able to get out and do a couple sets. I do a couple nuisance traps every year for a local place down here in town. But yeah, I just there's only so much time for everything when you work a full-time job, you know.
Yeah, it's hard. And that's what's funny is so I moved out west for hunting, right? I came out here for what seems like the same reasons you did, but then trapping kind of took over for me. So I definitely probably do more trapping than I do hunting. So it's rare I get out for, a couple days at a time to bear hunt. Obviously I make time to elk and deer hunt, but more of the free time I have is spent trapping. But I'm curious, like when you came out here, like, well, the Adirondacks and Vermont, like I've been there plenty of times, like that's still wild country. That's still beautiful country. With coming to Idaho and trapping, like what was it that was different that made you want to be out here versus back east?
Well, I think just the opportunities, you know. I mean, back there, all we had was deer, turkeys, and waterfowl, and some good fishing, you know. But you're
Mhm.
limited to maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year enjoying those things. Where Idaho, you can enjoy it all year long, you know. Every weekend we are hunting or fishing throughout the whole year, and it's been pretty epic, man. Like the first year I moved here, killed my first elk with a bow. It was a
Mhm.
spike. Never even seen an elk before, you know, and to get one of those down is pretty freaking epic. But as far as the trapping goes, it was actually very similar to back there, minus a lot of back in the Adirondacks and Vermont. We had a lot of swamps, a lot of
Yeah.
beaver huts, you know, where you could go and trap 4 or 5 beavers out of a hut. Around here, you have small dens in pockets of boulders on along the river. Might have 3 or 4 beavers in it. We try to only catch 1 or 2, move on to the next den, kind of thing. Um, so it's kind of different, but you're still trapping the same. You know what I mean? I don't know. It is different, but you could really. It was a target-rich environment back there for trapping, for sure. It's
Yeah.
definitely not that here, but
And with the trapping for you and even back east, were you doing anything with like the pelts? So, I mean, was it just like a fun little extra source of income? Not that we get a lot for the pelts now, or was it just keeping them for fun and making little projects out of? Did you do anything with, you know, some of the furs?
no, it's been just mainly just for a hobby. Uh, you know, we try to keep all the furs for our house. We don't sell
Mm.
any of our furs. They're considered trophies in our house. You know, it's something that we worked our ass off to get, and I can never sell it. Like people that sell their deer antlers, I can't do that, man. I can't part with a memory, you know. And so yeah, we have a lot of furs hanging up in the house. Probably one of the main reasons I kind of slowed down a little bit is because Laura was trapping her ass off and she was getting a lot of shit, and
Yep.
she was filling all of her freezer space. So I was like, fuck, I can't go out and get a bunch of shit too because we're gonna have to buy 3 more freezers, you know. Um, so Laura actually took a fleshing class today with a good friend of ours. Um, I've never really dealt with the whole fleshing and drying. I've always just scun them out, throw them in a black bag, throw them in the freezer, and send them off to a taxidermist to get done.
Yep.
But so she really wants to learn how to do all the fleshing. She wants to eventually tan everything herself. That way she can obviously save money doing it, but just be efficient and keep the freezer space low for all of our deer and elk that we kill every year.
Yeah. Well, Godspeed to her, because I took that path and I still am on it, right? Where I'm fleshing all my furs, drying them. I tanned some more successful than others, but I started when I got unemployed this past year. I started to work at a local taxidermy shop, not in Atlanta, Idaho, but I'd come down to Boise, and I learned a lot of wizardry around A, fleshing, and B, tanning, which has been a lot of fun. But I'm actually going to build my own little tannery, not pressurized, but like a little just rolling tanner.
Yeah.
If it works, I'll build one for you guys too, so y'all can do it up there where you're at. So,
yeah, I got a good friend that's a taxidermist, and he's been kind of messing with the whole tanning himself, and it's a lot of freaking work, man. And it's a lot of work to actually make the hides beautiful. So,
well,
yeah, my dad was a taxidermist too growing up, and he started out doing his own tanning, and he realized how much work was into it, and he would just send everything off to get done.
well, that's a pretty cool thing. I didn't know your dad was a taxidermist.
Yeah, he was a carpenter for pretty much his whole career, and he had a couple accidents, broke his back, and he was still going. He built a log home that we grew up in all by himself, and he was a pretty talented guy, and he was always an artist, and he wanted to do something different. He went and took a weekend class for taxidermy, and he started just pumping out some awesome mounts, and he was within 2-3 years, he had over 100 heads to do from people, and he was just a hell of an artist. So
Yeah, that is not. So when I was shadowing this guy in Boise, you talk about hard work. Like, I mean, it's like anything else. It's artistry, but even just adjusting the molds, making sure your wet tan hides are coming back, getting them fitted. I'm not an artist, and this is where I struggle with taxidermy. Like, I'm colorblind too, so like just matching clays and doing the paint. So you probably don't want me to taxidermy anything from you unless it's a zebra. But
well, I mounted a squirrel once because I thought I was, I was thinking about getting into it, and my finished product looked like it had mange and rabies. So I was like, oh, that's probably not for me. So, but Laura, like I've told her, I mean, if she wasn't so busy with her skulls, she'd be a hell of a taxidermist because she's such an artist. Like she is so meticulous. She'd be a great taxidermist, but she doesn't have time for both. So maybe one day I'll talk her into mounting all of her shit.
Hey, you cut out the middleman. If you can get your wife to do it, that's awesome. My wife's an artist, so I'm kind of slowly, like, she'll help me flesh, she'll help me do some of the tanning work, and she enjoys it. So my diabolical plan is to get my wife to do all of our taxidermy because I'm not an artist, but it's way cheaper to do it yourself if you have the time than it is to go to the taxidermist.
Yep, for sure.
But
yeah, I had a pretty steep bill last year. I got our son's first deer mounted. I got an antelope mounted. I got two deer mounted. So yeah, I have to start selling Laura's feet pictures online or something to pay for that shit.
Yeah, I know. We got to drum up the OnlyFans, man. We just got to do the the assless chap, mountain ridge hunter, expose.
Yeah, like it's a free subscription, but you pay me $10 not to send you a ball picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there we go. I like that one. As long as it pays for the taxidermy, that's all that matters.
Oh, heck yeah.
That's a pretty good segue. So, one thing, we've talked about offhand a little bit is just social media. So I, have very small following, smaller than most, and I enjoy that. I'm not a social media person. I didn't come up in social media. Obviously, I've got a podcast now. I'm enjoying it to a certain degree. Also makes me want to vomit half the time. Just kind of the self-promotion aspect.
Yeah.
But, you've been pretty successful in social media. Your wife has been very successful in social media. And I know that you've been outspoken kind of against influencers in the hunting space. And I know you went on the podcast with my buddy, Jim Huntsman, and had a good conversation with him. So where do you stand today, just kind of on the whole landscape? Because it seems like there's a lot of pitchforks out for influencers, but I'm in a position where I'm like, I kind of see it, I kind of appreciate it. It helped get me into hunting, which I'm appreciative of. But I also see the queasy aspect of it. Like I always call it having to climb cringe mountain. And I don't like climbing it, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, back to like a successful platform, what do you consider successful? You know what I mean? Laura and I started our pages. I actually deleted my Instagram and Facebook a few years ago because I got so sick and tired of all the crap on there. But we never started our pages to try to make a living or try to benefit off anything. You know what I mean? We just wanted to share our adventures with people, and if we could make a difference in someone's life, that's what we did. So I've always been kind of against the whole influencer status, accepting free opportunities. I hate that crap, and I hate seeing ads people push all the time. And when Jim talked to me on that podcast about that, he said something that really stuck with me. And he said, if you're so against all the sponsors and opportunities and you take them, they're going to give them to the next person who has maybe a bigger following, but not a better face in the hunting community. And that's who is going to be representing their products. And that really stuck with me. It's like, am I really doing the right thing by turning opportunities down and not doing something positive in the hunting community? So it made me think, and Laura and I made that video that I'm sure you watched, and her and I talked for quite a few nights, and we're open to start taking opportunities, but we want to take those opportunities, not benefit from them ourselves, but we want to turn those opportunities into benefiting someone else that is deserving. So we started, I've been networking a lot. And there's a lot that goes into something like this, but we want to raise money from companies, good companies that are supporting us, and take out, do like a Make-A-Wish hunt is what I want to call it. I don't know if I can call it legally that, but it's something similar to that. Nonprofit. We're going to open applications to people that are deserving of something special in their life to make a difference, whether you're terminally ill, disabled, or just been through a lot in life and you need a break, man, and that whole thing kind of hits home with me. My father passed when I was 25 of brain cancer. So it that whole deal really hits home, and I just want to give back to people and just make a difference. There's so much diversity in the hunting community right now, more than ever. And, I'm guilty of contributing to that, in my past because I've been so outspoken. But really, we need to unite and fight against anti-hunters and all this crap because we're losing our rights all the time, man. And so yeah, we're working with companies now, some awesome companies, and there's a lot of products that are being donated to the hunter that we choose to take on this hunt. I'm going to be the licensed guide for whoever outfitter we choose to go through. We may not go through an outfitter if we can't raise enough money. We'll just have to see. There's too many logistics at this time. I'll know better this fall, but it's going to be for the fall of 2025 is going to be our first hunt. And I hope that it moves mountains, and I hope that it really blows up after the first hunt, and a lot more people want to join in and just make a difference. So
That's awesome, man. I truly like that's beautiful. I've been fortunate where, you know, especially on the terminally ill side, like I haven't had to go through that with a close family member. I mean, I've been adjacent to it and see the hurt and the pain and the, you know, just trauma it can cause. But, you know, I do believe there is no greater calming mechanism, whether you're terminally ill or disabled or just going through a rough time than the woods. And
oh, for sure.
unfortunately, not a lot of people have access to it, or, you know, they might see it on Instagram and might think it's a great thing and never have the opportunity. So the fact that you and Laura are, you know, reevaluating what you've been approached to in the past, but saying, yeah, like we're open to it now, but we're going to put it, you know, pay it forward into this, you know, program that you're putting together is awesome. I mean, I know it's probably too early, especially when you're thinking about whether you're going to go through an outfitter or not. Do you have an idea of the hunt, or is that something you're going to try to leave open to whoever the applicant is? Like whether you're going to do bear hunting, elk hunting, deer hunting, or will it also depend on like the mobility of whoever
Yeah,
applies?
that's a good question. I'm kind of sorting through all that stuff right now. We did get offered through Boulder Creek Outfitters. They're a great outfitting company. I used to guide for them. Great people. He wanted to help out, and we were talking about a whitetail hunt, which I guided on that ranch before. It's something that pretty much anybody can do.
Mm-hmm.
Even if someone can't get around that well, it's four-wheeler accessible. We can make it happen. You know what I mean? And I just want this hunt to be something super freaking special. I want it professionally filmed, and I want all of our sponsors to be recognized in the film. And I want that film to be given to the family forever, And so yeah, it's either going to be a deer hunt or an elk hunt. And I've actually been talking with NWTF. They wanted me to do a turkey hunt in the spring, so that might be something else that I can do. I can offer 2 hunts a year. Unfortunately, I'd love to help every single person that messages us. I really would. But if I can help 1 or 2 people a year, I mean that's better than nothing. So, and it's I think the hardest part of this whole thing is gonna be who do we select, and it's gonna be gut wrenching to read some of people's stories and try to figure out who we're going to take. I think that's going to be the hardest part of the whole thing. So
Yeah. Well, I do believe in this part. God will have a hand in that as far as helping you guys figure out who and whoever it is going to be the right person. And I look forward to seeing it. I look forward to seeing you guys, you know, succeed in this because it is selfless. And I think, you know, even going back to influencing, the selflessness has been lost a lot. So I think being a good example of leveraging your influence in a positive way in a selfless manner that serves somebody else that would otherwise not be able to participate. It's just
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. There's so many people out there, in the hunting world or outside the hunting world, are just in it for themselves. Whether it's crazy to me how many people just don't care to help others, and that's not the American way. And
Yeah.
we would just want to make a positive difference. So we both love our jobs. I absolutely love my job. I get up every morning and I'm ready to go. And um, don't get me wrong, some days I don't feel like getting up, um, but we both love our jobs, and we're not on Instagram to try to make money off there and quit our jobs. That is not our goal. Everything that is donated or made from our platforms will be going towards the hunts. So we're not benefiting anything from these. So yeah, I know it seems kind of crazy, and maybe we are crazy, but yeah, we're just trying to be good
Hey,
people.
I've met you. You guys are both crazy, but crazy in the best of ways. So I know we're starting to kind of come up on the hour. I have a few like lightning round questions that I do want to hit that I hit with a lot of people, but you know, one that I always like to ask is when you were trapping a little bit more regularly before kids, before all of that, what was the biggest mistake you ever made on your trap line?
Biggest mistake is trying to put too many traps out and trying to get just numbers out there instead of making really good sets.
Hmm.
And, you know, a week, 2 weeks into checking it and you don't have anything, it's like, damn it, man. Like I should have taken way more time and set good sets. I just wasted how many trap check days and gas, you know. So I think that is probably one of the biggest things I can tell people is I don't care if it takes you an hour to make a good set, that is going to pay off, you know. Just take your time, make good sets, look for sign, and then make sure your safeties are always off because that is like that's huge. You can take all the time in the world, make an awesome set, and then forget one safety, and an otter swims through it, and you miss them. So
Yeah, that's painful. I think if everybody's truthful with themselves, you know, that's happened to everybody who started trapping, you know, and then you start to wire them back or just make sure they're off. But I think I did that once this year already, just kind of getting a little too quick. Didn't flip
yep,
one off or was in the current and flipped back on. I didn't notice and came back. And yeah, that's a disheartening feeling when you walk up back on that.
it is for sure. Yeah, just taking your time. I am guilty of this more than once for trapping or hunting or fishing or whatever. It's just getting in a rush and maybe it's a time crunch. You don't have a lot of time, but you want to get it done. But if you don't have the time, don't make shitty sets because it's not going
Mm.
to pay off. You might get lucky here and there, but set aside a weekend that you have free and just go make awesome sets. And then your trap check days, I mean, that's once you get them all set, you're done, you know?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Well, I know that's great advice and one that I need to heed a little bit more. Um, Next question. Have you ever pooped your pants willingly while out on a hunt or your trap line?
Oh, Laura. So this is a good story. You'll like this one. This goes back to high school days, and anybody that knows me knows that I will do anything to kill a turkey. I am a turkey nut. So I had been trying to get this old Tom for a couple weeks into the season. He just was an old smart bird, wouldn't gobble on the roost. He was just tough. Um, and you could only hunt till noon back in New York. So I put him to bed, as in I watched him go to roost. I knew what tree he was in. Drive there the next morning, get in there super early in the dark, get set up, got the decoy out in the field, and I'm probably within 100 yards of him. Starts getting light, no goblin. I can see him sitting in a tree. I didn't even bring my call, just a smart bird. And he pitches down with a hen, and he's strutting out there about 100 yards. And all of a sudden, my gut just went boom. I was like, "Uh-oh!" Like I got to shit, and I got to shit now, you know. And there's a steep bank behind me, but I had to crawl about 10 yards to get to that bank to get out of sight of the turkey, and he would see me. Like I didn't hunt my ass off this long and get out here bright and early to have him see me crawl over the bank and take a dump. You know what I mean? So I sat there and I filled my pants, and I had to sit in it for about 15 minutes, and he got within shooting range, and I popped him, and I instantly took my pants off and ran out there and grabbed him, ran back to the truck, and yeah, so I purposely shit my pants just to shoot a turkey.
That is next level commitment. That if anybody doesn't respect that, that is on them because that is awesome. I have to ask, what was the offending food? Like, was it a coffee burrito mix in the morning, or what was it that got your stomach all messed up?
I don't know, but I do have a slight IBS problem, so I can drink water and have to take a shit. So
Yeah.
but just know I would do it all over again tomorrow if I had to. So
Yeah. Do you have that fan on your wall somewhere at least?
no, I don't. I've in the moving processes of my life, I don't know where that fan ended up, but um, it's kind of out of control in my house with fans. I don't know how many I have up in the house, but it's a ridiculous amount.
Oh, that's awesome. And then,
Yeah.
I always kind of end these with a hypothetical. So, in a survival situation, and we're going to assume that you don't have to worry about other humans for whatever reason, you're just out in the woods, you, Laura, the kids. Would you rather have your 300 PRC with, let's say, 30 rounds of ammunition, or 10 snares and 10 footholds? So you can choose between the trapping equipment or the 300 PRC, and you had to survive for a year out in the woods. What would you rather choose and why?
What time of year are we talking?
It's a whole year, so you're going to get all 4 seasons.
Okay. Boy, I don't know. I would probably take the rifle, to be honest with you, because I make every damn shot count most of the time. And 30 rounds is 30 animals. And we could live off 30 animals pretty easy. And foraging for grains, everything else would make up the difference. Yep. I mean, I feel confident in trapping, but trapping, I don't know. I think I would do better with a rifle. I think we could survive better with a rifle.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, actually, I don't know. I've whipped enough shots to where I don't know if I have that same confidence that you do. But I can remake a set. That's my only thought on it. But
Well,
man,
you always save one round in case you got to use it for yourself.
that's true. That's true. I probably missed that one too, to be honest.
Just blowing
But
your ear off or something.
that would be my luck. Okay, this was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Hearing a little bit about everything you got going on. Got to talk about a wide variety of things. But where can people kind of follow AU? Obviously, people know where to follow Laura. But are you guys just going to be posting on social media about the foundation you're putting together for this hunt for 2025? Just tell folks where they can find everything out about you.
Yeah. My handle is Mountain Ridge Hunter, and I only have Instagram. But as it gets closer to fall, I should have more details, enough details to make a video about it. So these next couple months, I'm really just kind of networking and trying to get everything planned out before I announce anything. So hopefully by early fall, I'll have something out there. And if you know of someone that's deserving of this hunt, or even yourself, stay tuned and just wait for that video and shoot me a message, shoot Laura a message. We're gonna be, like I said, we're gonna be taking applications and just kind of sorting through them, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and thanks everybody for listening. And we'll catch you on another episode of the Okayest Trapper podcast.
Thanks a lot, man.